A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. At that time, Jesus said, "Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the mighty works done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. But it shall be more tolerable in the day of judgment for Tyre and Sidon than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be exalted to heaven? You shall be brought down to Hades. He who hears you hears me. He who rejects you rejects me. And he who rejects me rejects him who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord. Jesus is speaking again, and whatever utterance leave his mouth, whatever declarations that leave his mouth are absolute, not to be contested. They are boundless, and every condition finds relevance in them. We should take seriously these simple words into our hearts and let them sink into our minds. These are no jokes at all. When Jesus Christ makes such declarations against people or against places like this, you'd imagine the one who came with peace, the one who came with salvation, the one who actually has the greatest of love for humankind, would have his mouth utter woe. By every means necessary, we should dodge those woes. It should never be that any one of the woes of our Lord Jesus Christ be attributed to us through our actions. Individually, as we stand, we should be able to avoid being in the position of Chorazin, in the position of Bethsaida, because Jesus Christ cited that if the works done in you had been done in the other places, Tyre and Sidon, that are said to be faithless, they would have repented. But guess what? This is where the real danger is. We've always said this. Jesus now is declaring that it will be much, much tolerable for those pagan nations, for those pagan families, for those pagan people who have not heard the word or who have not had convincing education about the word. It will be more tolerable on the day of judgment with them than with us who have been exposed to the truth. Let us know that to whom much is given, much is expected. Let us not behave like people who don't have a vision of who God is, like people who don't have hope at all. Hopeless people act without looking forward or without looking backward. But we have a forward to look at because of the testimonies we have from behind. We have had the testimonies of God's presence in our lives, and that should enable us to look into the future with great hope, so that our actions today and in the future should only calculate to elevate the glory of God rather than to bring it down. In the various things that we do, like I have always said, it is not here that we manifest the presence and the glory of God in the church, no. It is when we go outside of the church, when we are face to face with our business, when we are face to face with our work. Because the people who need to hear our songs and our praises of God's glory aren't the angels. It's not even God himself that wants to hear it. I mean, those who do not know God are the ones that are meant to hear the glorification of God through our lives. That is why our being in the church is not just the place where we show decency. This decency needs to be shown out there. And so we shouldn't be distracted by the problems that we might face. We shouldn't be distracted by the persecutions and the misfortunes we may encounter. Misfortunes are not meant to define us. Problems are not meant to define us. They are the intricacies of life that we must go through. And so when Job thought he had the vocabularies in his mouth, when Job thought he had the sentences to construct in explaining how God has abandoned him and how his problems had actually brought him down, God asked him some certain questions that were impossible to answer. And one of those questions is, if you think you know too much about the reason why human beings suffer, can you actually tell the boundaries of the earth? And to be frank with you, astronomists believe that the earth does not have boundary. The world, the universe does not have boundary, and that is even impossible to contemplate. That the world has a boundary is equally impossible to contemplate. And when we live in this kind of world where mysteries are unsolved, then it will be very reductionist to take our sufferings or our flesh experience as the totality of what defines us. We are far more than what this body shows. And so let us tie ourselves to divine connection. And every single step we take will become divine.